Alright guys, it's Israel back again with Heavy Metal Reptiles, and today we're going to talk about 3 mistakes that new reptile keepers usually make. Again, this is based off of pretty much Reddit, Facebook, stuff like that, where I've seen firsthand mistakes that new reptile keepers are making. We're going to do 3 of them. Obviously there's a lot more. This guy is all up in my hair. There he is. And we're just going to go over it, and you guys can learn something and maybe kind of strike you to do a little more research and double check your sources and things before you go out and buy something like a crested gecko or a ball python. Come on, jump. Whoa. What do you got? Oh. I'll have to get that off. Okay, so the very first big mistake I always see, it's kind of why we're going to talk about it first, is people overfeeding their reptiles. So for instance, this guy could probably eat a little bit more. I kind of do visual. I could probably up his feed a little bit and do, like right now I'm doing every other day, maybe do like 3 days in a row, off a day, 2 days in a row, off a day, something like that. Just to kind of bulk him up a little bit. I mean, he's not an unhealthy weight, I wouldn't say, but he does have room to gain a little there. Ball pythons, I see people where they get to be adults, they're eating, medium rats, the bigger side of their spectrum, and they're feeding them weekly, which isn't completely wrong. It all depends on your snake and how they're digesting. They're like people. Their digestive systems work different. Their metabolisms work different. For me though, like Baphomet eats once every 2 weeks. Courtney goes back and forth between once every week to every 2 weeks, depending on her meal size, pretty much. Sometimes I have a hard time finding the right size meal for her, so I either got to go up or down. If I go down, obviously she'll get a smaller meal, and then I will go and get her the proper meal the next week, just to keep her routine going. But that is a huge problem I see, especially in the boa community. Boas definitely don't need to eat every other week, depending on your species of boa. You can actually feed some of those every 3 weeks. Some people feed them every month. I'm pretty sure there's one too where they pretty much power feed for like a month or 2 months or something like that, and then they go off food for 3 or 4 months. So there is a lot of different methods to feeding. Pick your route, stick with it, make sure your animal is a healthy weight, growing properly, and showing all good signs of healthy behavior. It's just one of the things I've observed a lot of on Facebook and, like I said, Reddit and things, where people are actually overfeeding, which can be extremely harmful for the snake. So, yeah, move on to number 2. So number 2 is wrong substrate. Some people would argue it's not that important, because I've seen the argument before on like Facebook and Reddit and things. It's extremely important you're using the proper substrate. Not only does, like, say, a ball python not need aspen, because aspen doesn't hold its humidity, but it can be harmful to that snake. They aren't as hardy and things as like a king snake or a corn snake, and they're kind of fragile. But I constantly see people keeping their ball pythons on aspen. Usually I would say I'm not knocking on the way people keep, but if you're keeping your ball python on aspen, I can almost promise you that your humidity is not right unless you have the whole room regulated exactly what the ball python needs, and you're double checking the enclosure to make sure it's staying where it needs. So, like I said, proper substrate is probably the most common thing I see. It would have to be the most common thing I see. I've seen these guys here on aspen. Yeah, that's a no-no. I mean, can you do it? I mean, people would argue that you can because they don't require like stupid high humidities. Usually around 60%, 60 to 70%, I think is what I keep these guys at. No, it's 70%. I try to keep right there at 70. Sorry, sometimes I got so many different animals now, and I'm not working directly with their temperatures and things. I kind of forget or stumble on what I'm thinking. I keep these guys right at 70. You can't achieve that really on aspen without the whole house being at 70% humidity. So not only are you got health risks involved by pairing up the wrong substrate, but you also have illness that can be caused through the reaction of the environment. A fly just buzzed around my head, and it's like the third time I'm gonna kill it. It's gonna die. But yeah, so we'll move on to number 3. So, number 3 would be the wrong enclosure, and I'm going to say the wrong enclosure because it's multiple things. It's the size of enclosure, the type of enclosure, and how the enclosure is really set up. So, you cannot just stick any snake in a tub with some bedding and call it a day. You definitely can't just stick these guys in a little 32 quart tub and call it a day. They need a higher up enclosure. I cannot stop yawning. I have done this video 3 times now because of yawning. The crystal gecko's gone. Hello. You cannot, or you can screw up just the enclosure itself. It doesn't necessarily have to be the size if you're keeping it in plastic, if you're not keeping a high enough enclosure. A lot of things depend. So you can't just put these guys in a tub and call it good. It's a little bit more than that. With, say, a corn snake, people might yell at me for this, but a corn snake you can almost get away with setting up a tub and throwing some aspen in there and a hide and a water bowl and saying, okay, you can keep your corn snakes on aspen. I know I just said a bunch of bad stuff about aspen, but you can keep your corn snakes on aspen. You can keep king snakes on aspen. There are things you can keep on aspen. But ADHD sucks, especially when you're doing YouTube videos and you're tired. Aspen, all the tubs, yes. So there are some animals that you can't just throw in it. Like my blue-tongued skink, I would never just tell someone, yeah, throw it in a tub, put some bedding in there, call it a good day. People do keep them in tubs. I'm not saying you're wrong if it's working for you and your blue-tongued skink's happy and healthy, cool. I just don't necessarily feel like you can do that, especially once it gets so big. Like once Lilith gets bigger, I'm excited to get her in a big cage. I think I'm going to do a glass top and a bioactive setup for the living room or something, and kind of get her out of the reptile room. She'll be the first one that I've put in there, and I'm actually thinking about bringing it out at some point. Like I said, doing a bioactive setup. Like these guys, I wanted to do bioactive with these guys, but their humidity requirements are so low. I'm scared. I don't want to screw it up because I like you guys too much. Yeah. This one's my buddy. I'm always getting Iris out. Barry the Flash is just too small, and he still has his tail. I'm so scared that I'm going to make him lose his tail. Anyways, back to enclosures. Yes, you can screw up enclosures, and please do your research and know what you can and can't can and cannot keep in tubs, and what you can and cannot, or your size requirements are. Don't put your 3-foot ball python you just got into a 10-gallon enclosure or a 5-gallon enclosure or something goofy like that. Make sure it is the proper size and is equipped and able to handle everything it needs to handle for your animal. We'll move on to the outro. So, yeah, those were kind of 3 things that I see a lot of new reptile owners make mistakes with. It's not knocking anybody getting in or anybody that's made those mistakes. You got to make mistakes to learn about them. Just learn and grow with them. You know, change it if you're doing it wrong. I mean, I like keeping these animals in captivity. I know a lot of the battle right now is people not keeping them properly and them being in poor conditions. Some of the stuff USR fights with and things. So, you know, the more we can inform people, you know, and keep them up to date, keep these guys living happy and healthy in captivity, the longer we're going to be able to have them before they start shutting stuff down. I think I don't know if it's a nationwide thing or what, that they're trying to ban live animals going into schools and using them for learning education with children, which I think is just crazy, because when I was growing up, I remember them bringing in birds and bobcat, I think they had one year, and all kinds of different stuff, and teaching us something with them, and we stayed intrigued because we were kids, you know. So that's a big thing going on right now, I guess. Fun fact. So yeah. Again, if you haven't followed me on here, go ahead and subscribe and like the video, and come back for more. If you got a video you want to see made, maybe you guys are in the market for a specific reptile and you want to get kind of a good rundown on how to take care of them or some fun facts, just let me know. I'll do the research, or if I know it already, we'll get the video made and put up for you. Just after you comment, make sure you watch the channel for the video to come up, because I really, unless you want to add me on Instagram, the link should be in the description, and then you can just message me and I can message you when the video goes up. You know, you can get a hold of me in the comments here, you can go and message me on Instagram. Facebook and Twitter should be in the description also. So yeah, it's fun doing another video for you guys. Rock on, my friends, and I'll see you in the next video.